Good afternoon, and welcome to this very special webinar on white-collar crime in Greece. We are very fortunate today to be joined in by leading experts from both private practice and in-house, leading lawyers in Greece, to discuss this very important topic with leading and rapid developments, as we shall both see, both in financial markets, criminal and regulatory aspects. And we are very fortunate to be joined by these experts today. One note of housekeeping is that we place a lot of emphasis on interactivity in these sessions. And so as our experts cover aspects of the conversation, we do encourage the audience to be submitting questions via the Q&A function, and we will endeavor to get to them whenever possible, if we can incorporate them throughout the conversation. Otherwise, we'll dedicate a special Q&A section at the end. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce the first of our panelists, one of the preeminent experts in Greece in white-collar crime and criminal regulatory risk management, the managing partner of Anagorastopoulos and Partners, Ilias Anagorastopoulos, who is a leading figure in business and financial fraud and money laundering, providing counsel on money laundering, corrupt and anti-competitive practices, asset recovery over the last 3 decades. Ilias, pleasure to be speaking with you today. Over to you for the rest of the introductions and for conducting the rest of the session.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your kind words. We have with us 3 stars of the Greek market. We have John Apsouris, who is Group General Counsel with Hellenic Energy, one of the leading energy groups in South Europe. We have Natasha Stamou, who is Vice President of the Hellenic Capital Market Commission. And we have Nancy Vera, Chief Legal, Regulatory and Compliance Officer of OPAP Group. OPAP is the leading gaming company in Greece. And we'll discuss with them some of the most topical issues which are currently in debate within the white-collar practitioners community. All of our panelists have extensive experience both in private practice and working with organizations and companies, so they can give us some very valuable, I believe, insights into highly topical and interesting issues. Let me start with you, John. You are General Counsel with a big energy group in South Europe. The companies deal with fuels, deal with energy products in this area. And this is not only a highly competitive area, it is also an industry where criticism is very often in relation to environmental protection, sustainability, ESG matters, more generally speaking. So could you tell us a bit how, apart from the standard risks that company executives are facing in terms of white-collar crime, what are the risks and the challenges which are specific to this industry? How do you deal with them? Can you give us a bit an insight into that?
Yeah, thank you, Ilias, and thank you, Chris, for this invitation to participate in this very, very interesting webinar. Now, the question was a simple one. The answer, I'm afraid, is not as simple as that. And I will start by saying a few words about the group of companies for which I work for 12 years now. Now, the group started, and until quite recently, was mainly an oil downstream business, operating 3 refineries in Greece, 2 in southern Greece, 1 in northern Greece, many storage areas in Greece, fuel storage areas, and a number of approximately 105,000 service stations in Greece, but also with an important presence in the oil downstream business in 6 countries, mainly the Balkans area. It is also active in natural gas commercialization through its participation in DEPA and in oil, power production, in cooperation joint venture with Italian Edison, operating 2 combined cycle power producing plants in Greece. And recently the group is developing an important and sizable portfolio of renewable energy assets in Greece, but also abroad, being one of the major producers of electricity from renewables. I mean, the group, not only the identity of the group, but also the structure and the main focus changes from a purely, oil downstream business to an integrated energy producing and commercialization company. So I will focus in the main areas of concern, because the company is listed in 3 stock exchanges in Athens, Luxembourg, and London. So it is a listed company, and therefore there are very important ESG obligations. I will skip for the moment E and S and focus on G: corporate governance obligations as a listed company, reporting obligations. So as all listed companies, we have a series of important obligations vis-a-vis the authorities, such as the Capital Market Commission in Greece, but also abroad, and vis-a-vis our shareholders in Greece and abroad. At the same time, 3 refineries. It's a very heavy industry. It is, and with respect to heavy industry, and especially with chemical industry and refineries in particular, I believe that there are 3 areas of potential criminal liability that affect more often its operation. They have to do with environmental issues, labor accidents, and the price control of basic consumption products as fuel. Food also is very important, but fortunately or unfortunately, my company does not produce foodstuff. Anyway, the issue here is that the protection of the environment, the safety in labor, in working conditions, are the 2 main prerogatives of the group since its creation about 40 years ago. So an ever evolving and ever improving scoring in environmental issues, and at the same time the protection of safe labor and safe operation of the installations. Now, having said that, refineries and other heavy industries, especially Europe, but also abroad, in other countries as well, they are very often the spotlight of citizens living nearby and by the public opinion in general, since they're very often viewed as polluters. By the same token, environmental violations are considered most likely to occur in industries such as refineries. This is not true, and I'm speaking in general about European refineries operating in the European Union with very strict regulations, very strict legislations, national and European legislations. So I believe that there is more vigilance and more attention paid to environmental aspects of the operation of the plants than with respect to, even lighter forms of industrial activity. Greece is not, in any case, a very, industrialized country anymore. But we believe that our plants and our operation has a raison d'être, not only in our shift towards, greener forms of energy production, but also in our traditional activity of processing fuel, for fossil fuel, at least for a number of years until the targets of the EU Green Deal will be obtained. But also even after, there will always be a need for clean and competitive refineries, who are I believe they are one of the main factors assuring the security of supply of the Union. So I would say that the three other areas that are common to all heavy industries, but especially to chemical industry and especially to refineries, that are causes of concern. They have to do with safety. Safety goes always first. Protection of the environment is very important, and at the same time, price control, because people are upset when prices go up, especially if the prices go up and at the same time the profits of the oil companies go up as well. So there has to be a kind of solidarity between industries such as the one for which I work and consumers. And I believe that governments at the level of the EU and at the national level, they are taking measures to face this problem and to share part of the profits of the companies with consumers. Now, having said that, I don't know if you consider this first answer as perhaps an introduction to the issue, or if you want me to continue with some further reflection on the potential risks, or you want to make some follow-up questions right now on the issues that I have tried to touch upon.
Well, I find it very interesting what you have pointed at. And speaking of the EU and the increasing awareness you have talked about on environment protection, what is called ecocide or things like that. Can you tell us a bit about the trends within the European Union, where this whole development is going? What can we expect in the near future in these areas?
Yeah, I will try to. In any case, I start by saying that climate change is a reality, and we all live the consequences of climate change. And I believe that it is a common goal for any one of us and any company to do its best to help face climate change and assist the EU and the national governments in their effort to mitigate the consequences of climate change. Now, I have three main areas to which I would like to refer, trying to answer your question, Ilias. Now, the first one has to do with the EU Commission proposal for the revision of the Environmental Crime Directive. It is the Directive 99 of 2008. Now, this proposal has been submitted by EU Commission in December 2021, almost a year ago. And the main points of such revision are, first of all, the increase of the spectrum, the categories of conduct that are captured by the Environmental Crime Directive. the second one is that it provides explicitly for prison terms, for incarceration terms, contrary to the Directive 99, which provided only for penalties and pecuniary sanctions. The other point has to do with the requirement for member states to establish extraterritorial jurisdiction for their criminal courts. That is also an important change vis-à-vis Directive 99. A final point of the EU Commission proposal is the requirement of member states to establish the right of the public concern to participate in proceedings such as partie civile. In Greek law, I have to tell you, and you obviously know better than me, that this to a certain extent existed in the national environmental protection legislation, the special criminal provisions that have to do with environmental protection. But now it is, it will exist at the level of the EU. You have mentioned ecocide, and ecocide is a very interesting and relatively novel notion. It is a notion that emerged right after the War of Vietnam, and the paternity of this term, according to something that I have read about it, belongs to the late Olof Palme, the Swedish politician. So it is a growing movement lately that aims in prosecuting polluters as war criminals. So far, there is no general and proper definition of the offense, and it is not a crime yet recognized by the UN. Now, a number of European countries, mainly Eastern European countries, have national laws punishing ecocide at the national level. And I know also that two small countries, Maldives and Vanuatu, have proposed to UN to consider ecocide as an international crime, but this is not yet there. So ecocide is, a proposal is on the table, and most probably we'll hear more about it in the near future, since there are a lot of NGOs, environmental NGOs, that are thinking about, and promoting such idea.
But
so
are we not moving too far? I mean, a war crime is what the term denotes, a war crime. If we put ecocides on the list, then there is a question, what else? War crimes must remain what the term denotes. I think that I can understand that establishing extraterritorial jurisdiction makes sense, but why make ecocide, whatever this is, a war crime? I think that, of course, we are moving now to international criminal law territory, but it seems to me that this is a too, if I may say, activist position, which could create more problems than it would solve.
I agree with you, Ilias. I agree with you, and there is a lot of criticism about the term and about the notion of ecocide and the way it is promoted by some people. European industry is very, very skeptical and very much concerned about ecocide as a standalone criminal offense that will add much pressure to the already existing pressure to the management of companies that obviously they need to abide by law. Okay, but there are already a lot of arguments, a lot of weapons in the arsenal of national governments and international institutions in case of violations of environmental legislation. Now, the third area that I would like to touch has to do with the increase of climate-related litigation in EU, in almost all EU countries. That has followed the Paris Agreement and the EU Green Deal announcement quite recently. So NGOs, citizens alike, they have a more active role in participating in climate-related litigation. Now, they have to do with environmental permitting cases, challenge of potential high-emitting projects. This in Greece is not new. As you most probably know, there is a lot of reaction, mainly brought before the Conseil d'État, the Supreme Administrative Court, with petitions of annulment against environmental permitting of industrial investments and so on and so forth. And there's an interesting debate before the Supreme Court, and very interesting case law which is developed throughout those years that this is a reality. But this is also becoming a reality in other countries as well of the EU. Now, there are cases also based on the breach of fiduciary duty, and this is very important because it is linked with the ESG principle and the obligations of listed companies now. So there are cases that have to do with the breach of due diligence obligations, duty of care, meaning the failure to manage climate risk, or the negligence to carry due diligence of cases, and and the diligence owed to shareholders and other stakeholders alike. There are also cases based on corporate reporting obligations stemming from EU legislation on taxonomy, on CSRD, sustainable corporate governance, the famous ESG. There are also recently climate change litigation to enforce the Paris Agreement. And I have an example which is, I believe, known to some. It is the famous Milieu Defensie and other plaintiffs case versus Royal Dutch Shell. Now, this is a case that has been heard before the national Dutch courts. It started and resulted in a decision rendered in May 2028, order Shell to reduce its global CO2 emissions by 45% levels, by 45% compared to the 2019 levels until 2030. It is the first climate change litigation that is ruling against a corporation and a major oil corporation such as Royal Dutch Shell. It has to be noted, though, that in July 2022, a few months ago, Shell appealed against this decision. So it is a pending case, but it shows a trend. There is also a case pending before the French courts. It is not Affaire Atous and others versus Total Energy. It is also a case that has to do with an effort to press Total to identify risks resulting from greenhouse gas emissions, and it is a case that has started in 2019, sorry, and recently it has the courts have resolved the procedural matter. The courts have not yet entered into the substance of the claim, so it is a case still pending before the French national courts. And I would say that although obviously it is the right of the citizens to seek recourse before national courts to preserve and to protect their rights, and this is by all means one of the features of the democracies in which we have a great privilege to live. But at the same time, sometimes there is a lot of excess, and sometimes those reactions lead to an excessive reaction, perhaps, of the public opinion. It remains to be seen. In any case, I believe that Europe, Greece, of course, within Europe, but also the world alike, is in the wake of a change. Production models are changing. Circular economy is a reality. Sustainable growth is a global aim and a global target. And all companies that respect themselves, they must do their best, their utmost, to obtain those goals and to achieve those goals, because as I have told you, the planet is one planet. I don't know if you have alternative, not to my knowledge, and the climate change is also a reality that we live in every day. So this is what I had in mind, answering to your second question.
Thank you very much, John. Exciting stuff, I must say. Let me turn now to Natasha. Natasha, you are, I see you now. You are the regulator
Yes.
of the capital market. And in recent days, we all read about the FTX bankruptcy and the crypto stuff. So what are you exactly regulating? Is crypto regulated or not? And if it is, how can such things happen? These are questions simple people like me are asking themselves. I read recently that the Greek Capital Market Commission has been vested also with powers with respect to service providers, digital
So,
assets, service providers. So can you tell us a bit? Are we living in an unsafe world? And will crypto invade every area? Will it become mainstream, or is it already mainstream?
well, I will try and answer all these questions. And I know that the FTX scandal is hot these days. I will try and explain the environment in which cryptocurrencies function, and maybe some answers about that scandal also come up. And I will ask all of you to excuse my use of extensive use of abbreviations, but something that I have to do. And I assume that you either know what these abbreviations mean, or otherwise I will explain. So in order to understand what cryptocurrencies are and how they function, we have, first of all, to speak about definitions. We have to define what they are. And when we say crypto or virtual currency, as such, we define a digital representation of value that is not issued or guaranteed by a central bank or another public authority. It is not necessarily linked to a legally circulating currency. It does not have the legal status of money. However, it is accepted as a medium of exchange, and it is transferred, stored, and traded electronically. Crypto money is opposed to fiat money, fiat currency, which is defined as a means of payment with no intrinsic value, but which is imposed on transactions with from some authority, usually government. Now, any person whose occupation or business is the provision of one or more, what we say, crypto asset services to third parties on a professional basis is called a crypto asset service provider, a CASP. Cryptocurrencies are connected with another notion, which is called the decentralized finance, DeFi, namely the activity that takes place outside the central financial system. using highly innovative technology, what we all know as a distributed ledger technology, DLT, like blockchain. And it provides access to services without the intervention of intermediaries, without the payment of commissions, while the funds and all assets remain outside the regulated financial systems. DeFi is based on the model of disintermediation and democratization of financial services, which facilitates easy and cheaper access to more citizens to financial services and more businesses to finance. Moreover, a decentralized financial environment may comprise of what we now know is now known as a Web 3.0 metaverse, an alternate reality, a 3D world, where also funds are needed, and these funds are cryptocurrencies. Since their first appearance in 2009, cryptocurrencies have been increasingly established as mainstream. To answer your question, whether mainstream or not, they are mainstream means of payment, and they're acceptable as a means of payment, although they're not systemic, as I said. The use of DLT ensures the secure completion and confirmation of transactions with perhaps the greatest possible anonymity. The large degree of anonymity, the speed of the transactions, the easier concealment, on the other hand, of their origin and destination, and the ability to transfer and store assets outside the centralized, the regulated financial system, make cryptocurrencies ideal vehicles for carrying out illegal activity, unable to be identified or treated promptly and efficiently. This is why we have a list of criminal activities, a typology of activities that are associated with cryptos. This typology includes financial fraud and scams, usually by the use of several methods and tools to gain people's trust, and by phishing or by efficient fake sites, or by making false representations, or other means of fraud. Also, fraudulent offerings of cryptocurrencies, theft by hacking, and also use of stolen cryptocurrencies in other illicit activities. Cyber extortion and ransomware, mainly by social engineering, or by using malware that attacks either cyber codes or digital wallets or smart contracts. Wash trading, which is the market abuse term in the metaverse. Money laundering, sanctions evasion, and terrorism financing. This is the main, let's say, typology. And so, as far as the white-collar crime itself is concerned, one of its basic features is the gain of assets with the deceit and concealment through violation, basically, of fiduciary duties or the abuse of power. In this respect, white-collar crime characteristics are similar and are aligned with the function of cryptocurrencies as described, whether decentralized or not. So we can say that they are mainstream, but they are also white-collar. So how do we treat them? In my opinion, traditional criminal law may tackle this typology of crime associated with cryptocurrencies on the basis that the substance of the crime is the same, but what changes are the means that are different. However, due to the vague illegal nature of cryptocurrencies, and because of the interlinkages between the metaverse, the decentralized ecosystem, and the centralized system, white-collar crime goes beyond that typology to financial crimes specifically described in capital market regulation. However, the difficulty in dealing with those capital market crimes lies in the fact that cryptocurrencies do not fall into the financial instrument definition, and thus they are not regulated as such.
So I understand, Natasha, from what you said, that what we have now, the current legal framework, cannot sufficiently cover these new types or old crimes in new clothes associated with crypto. And listening to you, if I were a crypto criminal, I would really go to this paradise and try to to gain a fortune. So what are the authorities doing? What is, if any, if is there a response from the EU or the international community to these new types of crypto crime? Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yes, well, until now, the international community was let's say reluctant in regulating crypto assets in general and cryptocurrencies. The difficulty lies in what we just said, that in classifying as financial instruments. That difficulty delayed their regulation as financial instruments, but had also averted the regulation of the underlying activity, basically by not requiring some type of authorization or some other requirement of a prudential nature. Accordingly, some jurisdictions have chosen not to put in place any regulation at all. Others to put in place a framework that is by analogy the same or proportional to capital markets regulations, MiFID-like regulations, and others have chosen to ban certain cryptocurrencies activities. Now, the EU is the first to make a regulatory step, and that was to include certain crypto activities to the AML framework. Since crypto service providers were not in principle under an obligation to detect suspicious activity, and the possibility of this is why EU came first to prevent unknown assets of unknown origin and owner being transferred into the financial system of the European Union. So for this reason, the application of the fifth AML directive has been extended to cover crypto service providers. Now in Greece, crypto assets are not regulated as such. There's no specific licensing or authorization regime. However, the directive, the fifth AML directive, was incorporated into the Greek legal system in 2020. When the scope of the basic AML law, it was extended to include these providers, these crypto asset service providers, among the obligated persons, and what constitutes a crypto asset service provider, the CASP, is defined in the FATF regulation, which were incorporated in the directive and also in the Greek law. So now, certain categories of crypto asset service providers, not all of them, but only those who are exchanging crypto money, cryptocurrency to fiat currency, or those who are providing services of digital wallet. These two categories are now regulated from an AML point of view. And the HMC, as we said, Elias, is the competent authority for this for supervising this AML activity. And what the law says is that these two categories of service providers must register with the HMC in a special registry for these CASPs. So the HMC requires all cryptocurrency service providers which are operating in Greece and are subject to the AML law and that is providers engaged, I repeat, in exchange between virtual currencies and fiat currencies and custodians of virtual asset wallets to register with us, with HMC. So it is the first time that the landscape of some of the activity on cryptocurrencies is going to be mapped, and the conditions are set for preventive or repressive controls by the HMC. As far as AML, I repeat, and I have to stress on that, as far as AML is concerned. However, as long as the framework remains fragmented, we have to all citizens who want to be involved in the cryptocurrency transactions should be aware that there is no protection at all, and even if they are making transactions as investors, because they're not investors, or consumers, because they're not consumers, because there's no basic legislation at the moment in place. But this is going to change when the EU regulation for the operating framework of crypto assets that are not financial instruments come into force, hopefully within 2024. This is the regulations for the markets in crypto assets. It is known as MiCA, and it addresses the issues that are not captured by the existing framework. As ESMA, the Association of Securities Markets Regulation of the EU, notes, MiCA is intended to provide for a comprehensive framework for the regulation of previously unregulated crypto assets in the EU. MiCA places a series of obligations on providers of crypto asset services, including crypto exchanges like FTX, with a view to protect investors. These obligations include prudential, organizational, and conduct of business requirements, and MiCA also sets rules for safekeeping of clients' assets and the prevention of market abuse. In a few words, MiCA is the equivalent of the MiFID regulation for cryptocurrencies that are not financial, they are not defined as financial instruments. I hope I answered the.
So it seems that we are expecting much more or even heavy regulation in that area as well.
Yes.
Which would also include more protection for customers. We have to see how this situation develops, because it seems, Natasha, that crypto is here to stay. So if we like it or not,
Yes.
this is the trend, and we have to accept this reality and see how we live with it. So what do you think? What are the challenges, and what is the role of regulators in this emerging trend?
Yes. First of all, I have to say that MiCA is one of the components of what is known the digital finance package of the EU. There's more to it. There's also the DLT pilot regime, and there is also the Digital Operation Resilience Act, the DORA. So there's a lot of regulation coming. I would like to speak first about the role of regulators. Until now, what do regulators do? They are playing their natural role, their role in general in monitoring and the relevant financial activity for the purpose of protecting investors, the market integrity, and financial stability. In this respect, most regulators have issued clear warnings about the high risks that are associated with cryptocurrencies, pointing out concerns about volatility and valuation risks. In fact, all regulators are discouraging the public from any involvement with cryptocurrencies. On the other hand, cryptocurrencies' popularity is growing, and the transactions are not decreasing. They are not decreasing. So the need for regulation is recognized, and a holistic and comprehensive framework is not far from implementation, as we just said. Regulators will still have to address legal impediments and technical matters in order to achieve legal clarity and effective supervision. In this respect, regulators should enhance supervisory tools with the use of blockchain technology itself by supervision technology. Training also must have dedicated human resources with certain expertise. Now, what's next? Crypto collapses like Codex or like FTX. Yes, they raise concern, but cryptocurrencies are here to stay. And they're here to stay because they are competing means of payment. They're alternative investment tools and complementary source of financing. But most importantly, they're here to stay because young people have an appeal on them. Certainly, regulation is needed, and it's on the way. What are the challenges? One of the biggest bets, however, is how we manage to close the gap between what Gary Gensler, the head of SEC, described as Far West, and a new ecosystem with concrete rules. So the first challenge is whether we turn to over-regulation or not, and that remains to be seen. In any case, cooperation between regulators and harmonization of rules is necessary in order to minimize market fragmentation and regulatory arbitrage. Another issue is compliance costs. Supervision of MiCA cryptos and of cryptos that are defined and that fall in the definition of financial instruments. This alone, in my opinion, is a major challenge. And just to touch upon some other supervisory challenges, the effectiveness of the anti-laundering mechanisms, the sharp volatility of prices, tax and accounting treatment of cryptocurrencies, the role of social media and the financial influencers. Also, the expansion of GameFi, which is the intersection, the crossroad between gaming and finance. And last, another challenge for the whole ecosystem is central banks' digital currency. So obviously, we found ourselves in a rapidly changing environment. So the most important supervisory challenge is about finding the right mix that will satisfy the need to support innovation, the need for financial inclusion, and also leverage technology, public protection, financial stability, and resilience. And
Thank you, Natasha.
I hope I answered some of our questions.
Well, there's a lot to be answered, and
Yes.
you did fine in giving us all these insights. And indeed, crypto, I would say, is also a form of democracy, isn't it? But as a stock exchange trader once put it, where chicken gather, then there are also foxes moving around. So regulation.
And also watchdogs.
Yeah. So speaking of bets and gaming, I will turn to Nancy, who is the Chief Legal Counsel with OPAP. OPAP is a giant in gaming here in Greece. It is
We hope to remain giant.
It is a kind of monopoly in many aspects. So Nancy, can you tell us what is the rationale behind this monopoly position? Is it right, or should we move to a more flexible, a more open market model? I'm provoking you now because
You mean
I know,
liberalized markets, not
yeah,
flexible,
liberalized.
liberalized. Okay.
So can you tell us a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you so much, Chris and Ilia, for the invitation and for giving me the opportunity to participate in this webinar among distinguished speakers such as Mr. Apsouris and Mrs. Stamou. Before starting the analysis and the rationale behind a monopoly or liberalized markets, I would like to give you an insight about how much Greeks are betting. So the total gaming revenue in the gaming market is more than 22 billion euros per year. So one may understand that there is a big challenge of criminals or illegal operators to take much of this share of this market. Now, as for the monopoly, I have prepared a short PowerPoint presentation. I will try to upload this and to share it with you so as to understand a little bit. Let me see if I make it here. I cannot find it. Just a moment. Oh, it's not. No, I cannot find it. So in order not to waste your time, OPAP is an exclusive operator. Just a moment. OPAP is an exclusive operator in the land-based market. So he has a 70% share in the Greek GGR in 2021 and has been licensed until 2030 for some of the lottery numerical games in the land-based. So OPAP is a monopoly provider in the land-based market. In the land-based market, also, casinos are players. The Greek state has granted 10 licenses to casinos. In the online market, we have a competition. Following law of 2019, AGC, the Greek National Regulatory Authority, has awarded 15 licenses to online operators, inaugurating the liberalization of online market and the operation of online providers on a level playing field. Now, as for OPAP monopoly, because Ilya, this was your question, the reason behind the establishment of OPAP's monopoly by the Greek legislator has always been to protect the overriding public interest, because betting is not like telecoms or energy. Betting without strict rules is something very, very bad and may be harmful for the society. So, namely, OPAP's monopoly is destined to achieve a high level of protection to the fight against fraud and crime, to maintain public order, to protect consumers, to prevent addiction, and to ensure transparency when conducting games of chance. You may be aware of the principle of responsible gaming. What is responsible gaming? Not only to play responsible, but also not allow minors to enter and participate inside the agency stores of OPAP. So this monopoly, it's not like has been granted like a favor to OPAP. There is a whole rationale behind that, a rationale that has been ruled by the ad hoc decisions of the Council of State and the European Court of Justice. In the Greek market, all of the operators should be licensed by the Greek Regulatory Authority, AGC, and without a license, when an operator operates without a license, this means that this operator is illegal and a license. Okay.
as you said, Greeks love gaming and betting. I think we are only second to Chinese, if I'm not wrong. This is something I've heard. I don't have any statistics, but you see it everywhere.
We live in luck, let's say.
So, and because this is so, illegal gaming is also a major challenge because it is cheap for those participating, or it seems so, but it is also very profitable for those who are organizing illegal gaming and make profit out of it. This, from what I know, a very serious phenomenon, and how do you address, how OPAP addresses this phenomenon? Can you tell us a bit?
Yes, first of all, illegal gambling is not only linked with illegal operators, it links also with illegal websites. AGC has blacklisted, just to give you a sense of that, I think I have the number, more than, just a moment, 3,600 websites in the blacklist. You can imagine. So how attractive is the illegal gambling? So OPAP has proceeded in the setup of a string of mechanisms, mainly in the framework of self-regulation. Because why? Because for us, the effective fight against illegal gambling is one of the top priorities in our strategy. So the role of OPAP in the fight against illegal gambling is both preventive and repressive. OPAP is really making a key contribution to the effectiveness of the work of the competent authorities, namely AGC, AML Authority, and of course, Hellenic Police. Our contribution is based on two pillars. Externally, OPAP constantly traces and collects data concerning the conduct of illegal gambling, both offline and online, irrespective of its nature. And internally, OPAP ensures the compliance of its agents with the legal regulatory framework. I should mention here that OPAP has the largest retail network in Greece with 4,000 points of sales, the agency shops. And if we include Hellenic Lotteries, we are talking about more than 12,500 points of sales. So we can understand that our retail network is huge. So it's very difficult for OPAP to ensure compliance, not only of the company, but of its network as well. So in order to achieve in the framework of self-regulation, the compliance of our network and also the tackling of illegal betting, we have set up in 2017, based on a BOD decision, the Illegal Gambling Office, which is responsible for receiving all complaints regarding illegal gaming activities, both land-based and online, mainly through various sources of information, such as our call center. The illegal gambling monitors, the abbreviation is IGO, monitors all the websites in the online, both legal and illegals, and also what it's doing, because we are talking about also violation of OPAP exclusive rights from licensed operators. And this office also monitors that if a licensed operator violates the rights that OPAP has been granted by the Hellenic Republic or TAIPED, HRADF, based on the concession agreement. So because we have a big portfolio of rights, there is, let's say, we are very attractive to other operators so as to usurp, let's say, our rights. So in this regard, we have established the Illegal Gambling Office. We have established also a mechanism like the mystery shoppers, which the mystery shopper would like to achieve the highest degree of efficiency in terms of compliance of our network of agents. So OPAP uses methods of mystery shopping. Also, we have inspectors doing the same job. The difference between inspectors and Mr. Shoppers is that Mr. Shoppers do not reveal their identity. Inspectors conduct audits with their identity. The other is that we have a call center with many people there. We have a call center with more than 60 people working the call center. Inside OPAP, we have not outsourced a call center to another company because for us, we're taking very, very seriously the gambling, the betting, and our customers. And also, we have set up a string of very strict internal policies and procedures, and we are trying to implement and to make sure that our agencies of our agents comply with the legal and regulatory framework as depicted and as reflected in the various policies. Finally, based on a BOD decision of OPAP, we have set up the compliance committee, which is consistent of most of the top management of OPAP. In the compliance committee, which has decision-making powers, we make sure that the fines imposed on our agents are based on strict objective criteria. And among these very serious sanctions, this committee proposes to the BOD of OPAP the termination of the agency contract once an agent proceeds to serious breaches of the legal and regulatory framework. So we may understand that in the process mostly of share regulation, OPAP takes very seriously its rights and its tasks assigned by the legal and regulatory framework.
Thank you, Nancy. Does the call center receive also anonymous complaints?
For sure, it receives anonymous complaints, and we forward these complaints to the Hellenic Police and to the various authorities, including AML Authority plus AGC, the Hellenic Gaming Commission.
I see. Thank you for that. I would say I look at the questions we have received. I think this it's the second question about AML guidelines to protect money from devious investments such as FTX. I think that Natasha has already touched upon this point. It's a matter of regulation, which currently is not complete. So we can expect that in the future that there will be more rules protecting money of people, but of course they can never be safe. I don't know, Natasha. I don't know if you want anything to add to that.
I missed your final words, the last sentence.
Yes, I said, is there anything else you would like to add to that? I said that we expect more regulation,
yes,
and more regulation gives hope that there will be more protection.
Yes,
for people's money.
This is what regulators think, and this is what regulators hope, that more regulations bring more protection. It doesn't come alone, I have to say. Regulations by themselves don't mean anything if the environment that activities take place is not, let's say, it's not operating in a manner, in an ethical and logical, let's say, manner. And to achieve that, in my view, what we have to do is educate. I mean, the answer for me is always educate, educate, educate. When we have educated investors, when we have educated consumers, when we have educated citizens, then the law is there, of course, and it has to be complied with, but also the spirit of the law and also the whole ecosystem operates more efficiently. we are in a society together and in a financial system that we are all together, and we are cooperating and reacting to activities and to behaviors. So regulation by itself doesn't necessarily mean more protection.
Of course.
It's an instinct of lawmakers and regulators. When we have scandals and we have failures, they tend to over-regulate.
Mhm.
This is something that the public requires, and also even us regulators think that it's the better solution. It is to a certain extent, but it's not the only one.
Sometimes it doesn't address the roots of the problem.
Yes.
And it is more of a symbolic reaction than something that addresses the real causes of what happens.
Yes.
There is a related question to that, a very interesting one. One attendee asks whether the EU Commission or ESMA or our Capital Markets Commission are going to issue communications and guidelines with regard to which crypto assets qualify as transferable securities or other financial instruments under the MiFID II. Yeah, please.
Actually, I mentioned that as a challenge earlier. I think it's a great challenge to define which crypto asset is a financial instrument. It's not that easy. And but after MiCA comes into force, RTSs will follow. I mean, technical measures and technical guidelines. ESMA, I think, will go first, and then all other national regulators will follow. Or, of course, it doesn't stop the HCMC from issuing some guidelines, but it's early. It was a question whether we should incorporate national legislation regulating cryptocurrencies earlier. I mean, before MiCA comes into force. This question was answered, by a big no, because we have to wait. And now it's not too far away. I mean, it's in implementation. There are going to be a lot of legal issues, in my opinion, and there's going to be a lot of interpretation of the new rules. And of course, the HCMC will be there to issue whatever guidelines necessary.
Mm-hmm.
We do that in any case.
I don't know whether any of our other panelists has information on whether the Greek government or our central bank, Bank of Greece, is looking to adopt a central bank digital currency. I don't know.
I think I can answer that.
Yeah. From what I know, there are still very discussions on a high level. I don't think there is any specific initiative. I'm saying this with caution, and it's an interesting question. We will follow it.
Actually, there is an initiative. There is a project by ECB for the issuance of central bank digital currency. And this is an ongoing project, but I think it's early, and I don't think that anything will happen before 2024.
Mm-hmm.
This type of central bank money might be a threat, or in any case, it is a challenge. I also mentioned that earlier as regards cryptocurrencies. I mean, this is a real. This could be a war, let's say. because this currency, digital currency, still, this is fiat money. This is, I mean, regular money.
Yeah.
And this is the answer of the central banking system to cryptocurrency.
We have another question, which is, as the attendee himself or herself says, that a bit deviating from our focus. To be honest, we had in mind initially to include DPAs in our discussion, but then the areas would be too many to be covered in a webinar. So the question is on our view on deferred prosecution agreements as a tool while dealing with white-collar crime cases is, of course, a general question. But I don't know, John, if you would like to give us your views on that.
Yeah, gladly, Elias, thank you. Look, unfortunately, we don't have this institution DPAs in Greek penal system, at least the way they're provided by UK law. I don't know if there are other jurisdictions that have similar institutions. Now, in my view, it's a great instrument, especially with respect to white-collar crimes involving corporations, because it enables the corporation involved to make full reparation for a criminal behavior without the collateral damage of conviction of its managers, and obviously the reputational damage that is inherent with criminal prosecution and involvement in criminal procedure. So the answer is yes, it's an excellent tool in my view, but unfortunately is not part of many jurisdictions in Europe.
John, I think we have this tool in a certain way with regard to cartel offenses, the Competition Commission. There, the companies can strike a deal there, and there is also immunity with respect to respective criminal offenses. But it is, of course, limited to competition,
yeah, you're right.
to anti-competitive practices.
Competition law provides, for a number of years now, for the possibility of offenders to undertake certain obligations and commitments vis-a-vis the authority, and to avoid criminal prosecution and to avoid penalties even. Because another aspect that perhaps would be of interest is that white-collar crime, especially with respect to the activity of corporations, is not having to do only with the criminal liability of individuals that are involved in management, but it is almost always coupled not only with the civil liability of corporations and individuals alike, but with very important fines and pecuniary penalties of an administrative/criminal nature that are very important. You have referred to competition law. There, the penalties can be a significant amount of the global turnover of the companies involved in a violation. I believe that also other violations, especially of Capital Market Commission issues, the recent law on corporate governance entails important pecuniary penalties and fines that have to do also with the turnover of corporations.
Indeed, the so-called administrative sanctions, which can be in reality criminal in nature, are sometimes devastating. And I've heard people saying that it doesn't matter that much if one goes 6 months in prison as compared to destroying a whole company with administrative sanctions, which are really huge. Thank you, John. So, Chris, I think we are over time. We have covered a lot of issues. Of course, there is much more to say and to discuss. And I think we have to thank the participants, the attendees of this webinar. And of course, I hope we will have the chance in future to have other discussions on topical issues. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Elias. And thank you to everyone else as well. I just have to say how really illuminating and really inspiring it is to be amongst experts such as yourselves. I've really been taking everything in and sort of putting everything in context. I think mostly we would agree that for a lot of the challenges we covered, including in the energy sector, including in regulatory sector, fintech. A lot of the new trends, this webinar is called White Collar Crime in Greece, but it seems like no single jurisdiction is enough on its own to overcome some of these environmental challenges, some of these regulatory challenges, tech challenges. But nonetheless, I think we've done a very good job at providing enough width and depth for our audience today. It really is a testament to your expertise and communication that our audience have engaged with us in such a way, providing such interesting questions. So a lot of thanks to them and to you all. I would like to say that there will be a recording of this made available in the next few days. So everyone who wishes to share this conversation would be able to do so online. If there are any concluding remarks, would be happy to hear them. Otherwise, I would just sincerely like to thank Elias, Ioannis, Nancy, and Natasha, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today, and look forward to speaking again in the future. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great
Bye.
evening.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.